Hey everybody, I have decided to do a pour today, and I want to do metallics and black swiping with a damp paper towel. I love swiping, and this might be just like a swiping day where I just do one canvas after another. I have a show coming up. It's just a one-night deal in Raleigh, and I can't take anything probably more than 12 inches because of the limited amount of space that we're going to have. I'm only going to have a 6-foot space and not a whole lot of space out from the booth, so it's going to be pretty tight, so I can't take large pieces. So I wanted to make sure I had plenty up-to-date pieces. So I changed my mind midstream, and I'm going to use a 12-inch black square canvas, pre-primed. It came from the store this way, push pins in the back. Today I'm going to use Floetrol, latex based, as my medium, 1-to-1 ratio with paint. My paint in my black cup is Artist Loft Flow Acrylic, 1-to-1 with Floetrol, and then a good amount of water to loosen it up a bit. The copper is Decoart Americana Decoart Outdoor Living. They have larger containers instead of the little 2-ounce bottles. These are metallics that they do that are in 8-ounce things, and they're super duper shiny, and I love them. So I've got copper and Liquitex Basics Gold, which is this, and then I started out with Liquitex Basics Silver, and I don't know if the tube was old, but I have literally stirred for 10 minutes or more, and it's got these little chunky pieces in it, and I just got really sick and tired of working with it. So I'm not going to use that. It looks perfectly fine in the tube, but when I mixed it with the Floetrol, it just didn't want to work with me. So I'm trashing it. I used Decoart, the sterling silver, which is a really pale silver. So I'm scratching the silver from Liquitex Basics. So Decoart and Liquitex Basics Gold. I'm going to do a half pump in each cup of OGX coconut milk. This stuff smells delicious. It takes very, very little to get nice, big, juicy cells. So I'm going to do just a couple of stirs. And a tip that is really good to know is put your water in a bottle, squeeze bottle. H2O is written on there, so it helps me remember it's not red paint. And then put 80-90% water and 10 or 20% Floetrol. So you have a milky white kind of watery solution, and it mixes into your paint mixture a lot better. Just does really well. So try that. I'm going to do a swipe with a damp paper towel, and I'm just making sure that I have it wide enough for my canvas, which I do. So 2 squares of paper towels is the width of a 12-inch canvas. I have my black mix 50-50 with Floetrol. It's ready to go. And I think with this I'm going to just kind of drizzle on. I was going to pour it in lines, but I wanted it to be more varied and I didn't want part of a color, wiped off the canvas and then part not. So I'm just going to put a little bit of everything on here, streaked kind of, in that fashion. And I decided, since I was swiping with black, why not start with the black canvas? It just kind of makes sense. So I want to get, decent coverage on the canvas. Every little gap does not have to be filled, but you can also tilt it also a little bit to help it go where it needs to be. And usually whatever is at the bottom is going to get totally swiped off, so I'm not concerned about great coverage at the bottom. So this way it's just kind of mixed in here and there. And then the copper. And I kind of wish I had picked a shinier silver, but we'll go with what we got right now. I don't keep as much silver around as I do other metallics, so they're a little harder for me to dig out of all my paints than just standard metallics, which I always try to keep plenty of. So basically I'm just making sure I've got a pretty good representation of all three metallics. These are 3-ounce cups, and I used maybe on the copper less than an ounce. The gold, maybe an ounce. The silver, a little bit more. I started with it, didn't I? I'm going to tilt one way. And then tilt back the other way. And if something doesn't want to move, you just stick your finger in it and help it. Help the paint meet up in between them. So I'll tilt again. And this is actually kind of pretty just by itself, just doing this. So again, I'm just sticking my finger in. And anything that dripped on the table, I'm just sticking it on the sides. And that way, when your black goes over the edges, it'll have some paint sitting there and waiting on it. So it is kind of pretty just by itself. And I'm going to do multiple pours today, so I'm going to try to keep my table pretty clean if I can. It's butcher paper. It's in my Amazon link below my video, which I love butcher paper. Oh, and that was the other thing I wanted to show you before I totally get into this. I'll show you. I'm adding a little more gold just because it either got covered up or I just didn't put enough. That feels a little bit better. So here is parchment paper. And the great thing about parchment paper is your paint will peel right off of parchment paper. The only bad side is it's super flimsy. Doesn't have any weight to it really, but it is a great thing if you want to let your drips pour onto a piece of parchment paper. It's great to peel your paint off this way. Also, if I ship paintings to a customer, and here I drip paint into there, dried paint. If I ship a painting to a customer, I will wrap it in parchment paper and then some cardboard and bubble wrap and that kind of stuff to protect it. But parchment paper is guaranteed not to stick to your paint. So that's what this is on. And then I had told you about, I have multiple things that I put my drips on to make jewelry from. This is like a piece of poster board that's, you know, regular poster board size, and it has a shiny plastic coating, and it's made for dry erasers, like dry erase markers that you write with and then you can wipe it off. Well, they make poster board that's covered with the dry erase plastic stuff. This is fabulous for drips and skins too. Like this here was one that I did the other day, and it peels off. There it is. I can use it again. That's the beauty of it. This is also true with butcher paper. It's just that that paper is a little bit more firm. So here is the back side, which is way prettier than the front side. I had used a gold colored paint, but not metallic gold, and I had some black and copper. I thought it would be really pretty, but it dried really ugly. But you turn it over and there's some interesting stuff going on there, so I may still keep this for jewelry skins. So I just wanted to share that with you. Okay, so we got all of our paint on the canvas, and since my sides are a little bit on the light side as far as paint coverage, I'm just putting a little extra copper because I have more of it left in my cup than I do the other colors. So the black does not have coconut milk or silicone or anything in it. It's just black, Floetrol, and water. So pretty good coverage there. Then you take your paper towel and lay it down in the paint and let it totally, I like to let it totally get in, soak down pretty well. And since it's not straight right here, I'm pulling that over with my fingers. Okay, so see how it's all soaked in? I'm just going to lightly drag and let it fall off the edge. And I may not have had enough on there at the bottom here, but that's okay because usually you have such a heavy amount of black there anyway. But what I can do is I have this black here. I can just come back and add it. You can use a palette knife or popsicle stick or anything. Make sure your end is covered with the black as well. I love, see, this was with 3, and I'm dripping. I dripped. This was with 3 little half pumps of coconut milk, 1 in each of the metallic colors, and you see how large the cells are? I also made my black just a little bit lighter with water. I didn't make it as heavy as I typically do. So I put a little bit more water in it, and just making sure that the black dripped over the edges as far as covering. So the silver came over the black, I guess because I had it so close to the top there, but that's okay. I don't mind that. It did come over the black down here. Overall, I'm pretty pleased with it though. It might have even been pretty just to do the copper and the silver, and I mean the copper and the gold, and not used any silver at all. I am gonna turn it. I was curious to see what would happen if I just blew it, but that didn't really do anything. I'm going to take a little bit of paper towel and just kind of lightly drag it. Then I'm going to take my skewer and just kind of try to make it blend in to look kind of like it had gone originally. It's almost like it took the paint down, like really almost to the canvas in this area. So I think what I'm going to do is add more black. Get another piece of paper towel. You can almost make it kind of look like cells. If you drag your skewer around a little bit, it'll kind of mimic it if you do it a little bit in a circular fashion. Just the silver looks more like pearl instead of silver. That's the interesting part. Trying to roll the paint just a little bit to get rid of some of the areas that look grayish, and hoping that either a metallic or the black will pop through. Sometimes you just got to be brave and like go for it. You might be scared to kind of do something, but you know, you can kind of control some things just a little bit. Like I want that black to pop out there a little bit more. I was going to see if I'd let the paint drift a little bit, but I'm scared to do it too much because I don't want to get rid of the cell structures. If you tilt the one way or the other too much, it's going to make your cells start squishing into ovals, or, you know, kind of like flattened cells instead of being round. So that's why I'm not going to tilt anymore. I'll hit it one time with the heat gun, but kind of the whole thing with using the coconut milk is it gives you such large, juicy cells. You really don't need the magic of the heat to make cells pop out because you've got your big, bold cells. So here it is. I just want to see one thing. I'm wiping off each time, but I thought maybe I'll just try to bring the color down into the black a little bit. I just wanted to drag some of the paint down into the black, so there was just a very little bit of black at the bottom. So overall, I'm fairly pleased with it, and I will let it dry this way and give it a couple of coats of nice glossy varnish to bring out all the metallics, and it'll look great. I'm also, sometimes the metallics will get a little thinner and you can kind of see down to the canvas, but the canvas is black, so it's not the black canvas, it's just the grain of the canvas showing. So all I'm doing is dabbing in a little black on that. Skewers are good too for rolling color over the edge if you need to. And it kind of helps continue the pattern. So just making sure all the edges are covered. So there's that one.